Mary Kettle's life was, at first glance, the epitome of childhood bliss, a portrait of serenity. Her world was one of laughter, love, and safety, cocooned within the walls of her family's home. She spent her days chasing sunlight through her father's garden, a landscape carved into a labyrinth of roses, hedges, and ancient trees that whispered with the wind. Her evenings were bathed in the soft glow of candlelight, as her mother's voice, gentle and warm, wove tales of wonder that painted the night with magic. In the eyes of others, they were the perfect family, untouched by sorrow, immune to darkness. And Mary, in her innocent joy, believed it. But there was something always wrong in the shadows of their home, something that Mary couldn't quite understand. Above her bed, an ancient mirror hung, its frame carved from dark wood, with intricate patterns of forgotten runes, aged and tarnished with time. The glass within never seemed to reflect reality as it was. It shimmered with a life of its own, distorting the world around it, its surface like the surface of a deep, forgotten well that whispered to her in her dreams. When she asked her mother about it, Maria would always offer a distant smile, her eyes glazed over with a sorrow that Mary couldn't place. "One day, you'll understand," her mother would say, her voice thick with secrets. But Mary never understood, and as she grew older, her unease grew with her. The mirror called to her in ways she couldn't explain. Its eerie gleam pulled her gaze, as though it were waiting, watching, silently judging her. Then, on a day when the sun hung too high in the sky and the air felt too still, Mary returned home from school to find the house unnaturally quiet. The warmth of her mother's cooking and her father's whistling were absent. The silence was thick, like a living thing. The walls seemed to stretch in strange angles, casting long, twisted shadows, and a chilling draft swept through the house, carrying with it the smell of old wood and mildew. Her parents were gone. Frantic, Mary searched every corner of the house, calling their names, but the only answer was the eerie creak of the floorboards beneath her trembling feet. When she entered her bedroom, the sight that greeted her nearly shattered her mind. In the mirror, her parents stood, only, they were not themselves. Their reflections were twisted, contorted into grotesque versions of their former selves. Their eyes were wide with fear, their mouths stretched in silent screams. "Help us, Mary," her father's voice echoed from the depths of the mirror, distorted and hollow. "We are trapped here. You must break the mirror. It's the only way." Her mother's voice joined his, broken and desperate. "We can't reach you. We're not gone, but we're not with you either. Please, Mary. You have to free us." Frozen in horror, Mary reached out, her hand trembling as it met the cold glass. No matter how hard she pressed, the mirror refused to shatter. The reflection of her parents faded, their faces twisted in agony, their voices growing fainter. "Mary," her father's voice cracked. "Come live with us. Come into the mirror. It's the only way to save us." The words felt like a spell, an incantation that threatened to consume her. For a brief moment, she almost stepped forward, almost let the mirror claim her. But something deep within her heart recoiled. She wasn't ready. She couldn't abandon the world she had known, not yet. With shaking hands, she forced herself to turn away and locked the mirror away in the attic, its voice following her like a shadow, haunting her every step. Months passed, and Mary was placed with a new family, the Kettles, a kind couple who took her in. At first, they seemed like a blessing, warm, loving, eager to give her a home. Mr. Kettle, a hulking man with a booming laugh, treated Mary like his own flesh and blood. Mrs. Kettle, reserved but kind, became the mother Mary had longed for. But slowly, things changed. The warmth that once filled their home faded into something colder, more sinister. Mr. Kettle's jokes became cruel, his temper unpredictable, while Mrs. Kettle's gentleness turned to sharp rebukes for the smallest of mistakes. The beatings started small, slaps for spilling a drink, harsh words for every imperfection. Mary tried to be perfect for them, tried to earn their love, but nothing she did was enough. They would make her feel small, unworthy of even the smallest kindness. It wasn't until the night of the celebration, when Mr. Kettle invited his friends over, that Mary understood the depths of their cruelty. The men drank, laughed, and leered at her, their eyes predatory, their words laced with malice. As the evening wore on, she became trapped in their gaze, a puppet in their game. One by one, they came into her room. Each man took his turn, and Mary, numbed by fear, could do nothing but surrender to the darkness inside her. The mirror, her only refuge, offered no solace, only silence. Her parents, trapped within, did nothing. When the last man left, Mary collapsed, her body a hollow shell. But something inside her shattered, and in that moment, the mirror called to her more than ever before. Her soul, broken by pain, entered the glass, and she was no longer the innocent child who had once loved the world. She was Bloody Mary. Her parents, awakened from their prison, were no longer the loving souls they had once been. The mirror had changed them, filled them with rage, a fury that burned hotter than any love they had ever felt for their daughter. They were now creatures of vengeance, twisted by the dark magic that bound them. Together, they moved through the world, their spirits vengeful and merciless. One by one, the men who had tormented Mary met their end, swift, brutal, and agonizing. Each death was a sacrifice to the mirror, and their spirits, too, became trapped in the glass, forced to relive their worst sins for eternity. Mary had become a reflection of the darkness in every soul. The mirror had transformed her, filling her with an insatiable thirst for justice. She could feel the power of the glass in her veins, shaping her into something darker, more powerful, than she had ever imagined. But with this power came an understanding of the mirror's true nature. It was not just a prison, it was a doorway to the souls of the damned. It reflected not only one's desires and fears but the unspoken darkness that lurked within all hearts. The mirror was alive, a malevolent force that fed on the torment of those who gazed into it. As Mary's power grew, so did her connection to the mirror. It whispered to her at night, urging her to embrace her new form, to become the living reflection of suffering itself. But deep within her, a part of her still longed for peace. She would visit the mirror late at night, speaking to her parents' spirits, feeling the weight of their sorrow. "I can't let you go," she whispered one night, tears staining her cheeks. "You're all I have left." Her parents' voices echoed back, cold and distant. "You are ours, Mary. We will never leave you." But Mary's heart was torn. She had become the very thing she had once feared, the thing that lived in the shadows, that waited behind the glass. One night, as she gazed into the mirror, a voice spoke from the depths of the glass. It was not her parents, but something older, something darker. "You have become more than I ever was," it said, its tone like the rustling of dry leaves. "You are vengeance. You are eternal." Mary turned toward the voice. "And what if I want to stop? What if I want to end this?" The voice chuckled, low and echoing. "You cannot stop, Mary. You are the mirror now. You are the reflection of all that is wrong in the world. You cannot escape what you have become." But even as the voice spoke, something within Mary stirred. She had become trapped in a cycle of vengeance, her anger feeding on the suffering of others. She realized that she didn't have to be this. She didn't have to be Bloody Mary forever. With a single motion, she shattered the mirror. The glass splintered, and the spirits of her parents faded, their souls free at last. The room, once filled with darkness, was now bathed in a soft, warm light. For the first time in years, Mary felt peace. But the mirror's power lingered. It had become part of her soul, just as she had become part of it. She was no longer the same girl who had once loved her parents with innocence. She was something else, something bound to the darkness, to the mirror, to the world's unspoken suffering. And though the mirror was shattered, a part of Mary would always remain. In the cracks of broken glass, something still waits. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything to us. Thank you for watching.